All right, Clayton. After the show, it's the AfterB.O. So welcome to the AfterB.O for Wednesday, October 25th. Yes, October 25th is when this AfterB.O goes up. Cheers. Cheers. So we got our Sanzo for the AfterB.O.
So
Or is it
it's the
cheers?
AfterB.O.
We're coming in hot after a big episode preview in Five Nights at Freddy's with Danny Escamilaggi of I Screen, You Scream for number four movies. And listen, on the show, he was like, and now I'm gonna listen to you talk shit about me on the AfterB.O. And I mean, I don't know. Listen, I can't speak for you. I think he had a fantastic appearance on the BO Boys. He cut the shit. He yelled at us, and I loved it. Clayton, I mean, are you going to talk shit about Danny on the AfterB.O? You can, because it's the AfterB.O and anything goes.
Let me tell you, best appearance yet.
Wow.
And for the Mario episode, go back and watch it.
Yep.
He was dressed as Wario, right?
Yes.
Was it Wario?
He came in full costume to our podcast.
Yeah.
Few podcast guests come in full visual costume, but Danny did do that.
He brought it. And, you know, he really spoke his truth in a way that is refreshing.
Yeah.
You know, he stepped all over me.
Yes.
Which normally I'd be so angry about.
Yeah. You're so quick to anger.
Yeah. But
and him yelling at you didn't do that. It seemed to make you proud.
It came from a true place, right? It came from a righteous place, which I say, do that. If you need to shout it out loud. So yeah, great appearance by Danny.
Yep.
Obviously, he went really high on Five Nights at Freddy's. Kirk Minahan, you know,
great 90, Kirk Minahan. Danny went to 84.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was more in the middle. What did I do? 60 something.
You went 65. I went the lowest out of all of us. I went 53. I did the formula of a Megan opening plus a Cocaine Bear opening equals 53.
Which could be the math.
It could be the math, but you know, listen, anything's possible. We'll see on the next episode. But yeah, very, very, very interesting episode of the BO Boys. We tackled Five Nights from every. Clayton, we didn't talk about this on the actual show. Are you going to see Five Nights at Freddy's in the movie theater this weekend? No.
I am going to see. I'm going to go see a true film. I'm going to go see the Killers of the Flower Moon.
Okay.
Because I must. I will watch Five Nights at Freddy on Peacock some night before I go to sleep, possibly fall asleep during it.
Right.
You know, because it's a happening for the kids. Right. I get it.
Yep.
So, and plus, you know, if you've been listening to the show, you know, especially our previous episode with Kirk Minahan, I'm going to have my fill of seeing movies next year.
Right.
Let's just say that, you know, if and when I get the gig.
And you're the current front runner to host Kirk Minahan's at a theater near me.
Yeah. I mean, and it would truly be foolish to choose anybody but me. But listen, that's a discussion for a different time.
Right.
And so I am going to be sort of picky and choosy because I know I'm going to be spending a lot of time there. I think I'll start ramping up closer to the date. It's like marathon training. You're not going to run 18 miles first week, right? I'll go see the movies I want to see at the pace I want to see, start ramping it up, and then go full throttle.
Right. Like in December, you should do a 5 days in a row.
Yep.
You know, something like that to
get on the schedule.
Up. Yeah.
Because it is about being in the right mindset, getting the right amount of sleep, the dietary aspect of it.
Right.
Where can I fit in popcorn and all these different concessions into my diet? Because if I eat like shit, all my meals, I can't eat pretzel bites.
Right.
I can't eat all these different food options because that's part of it too. It's a cornucopia. I mean, it's not just a sitting and watching movie experience. It is experience every aspect of it.
Right.
But listen, I'm not pitching for the job here on the after show. I'm going to have to pitch for this job. And you've heard my pitch.
It's a strong pitch.
By the water cooler, it's a
yeah.
strong pitch. So let's not waste it now. There'll be plenty of times for me to pitch myself.
So you're going to see Killers of the Flower Moon this weekend.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I'm going to bring this up here because we're on the AfterB.O, which is exclusively, it's a web-exclusive to our YouTube channel. And we love all these different communities that we've created. Of course, there's the podcast listeners, but there are the people who are fans of us through YouTube, and they comment on the videos, and we got some comments.
Yeah.
On our last episode, you know, the Kirk Minahan episode where we previewed Killers of Flower Moon, we were both high on that one going into it. And we both talking about that $23 million opening weekend with Kirk. You and I both said that was a fine opening weekend. It's about legs with this movie.
Yep.
You know, we said, don't sound the alarms. Yes, Apple spent $200 million on this, but don't sound the alarms. It's all about legs. We had some of the commenters on our YouTube channel. They were their hackles were raised by the way we talked about this. I mean, I'll read some of these comments right now. We had a YouTuber named Matt Riznes 591. He said, I'm 35 minutes into the episode. I had to stop and comment. Are you guys seriously going to try to spend $23 million opening weekend for Killers of the Flower Moon as anything other than a disaster? It made 1/3 as much as Black Adam did. Opening weekend cost as much, if not more, to make. Don't make excuses because you love Marty or the movie's depressing and long. $200 million movie stacked with movie stars making $23 million opening weekend is a disaster on every conceivable level. That's from Matt. And I'll read one other comment here at Mimi dash something else, bunch of letters, but at Mimi is the main part of his handle there, or her handle, or people's handle.
Their handle, yeah.
Flower Moon has been a box office disaster. People go to the Marvel movies, go again, and tell their friends to go. $20 million for opening weekend is an abject failure. Stop fluffing it because it's Scorsese. All right, Clayton, we're on the AfterB.O. Anything goes.
Let's
get into it.
Is Mimi posting that comment from 2017?
Wow.
2018?
Well, 2000.
People don't go see Marvel movies over and over again anymore.
2019 might be posting from 2019. That's when Endgame came out.
Hey, let me sell you some masks.
Oh, something's coming up.
Yeah.
A year after this comment.
Yeah.
That they're posting here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's get into the are we fluffing this movie?
Well,
I don't think I'm preparing this movie for a porno scene.
No. And I don't want to attack people because
listen,
I'm not, but what I'm going to say is
we love that they're watching the show, listening to the show. They're usually, I mean, Matt, I've seen him comment all over. He is a fan of the B.O. boys, and we like Marty Scorsese is with Killers of Flower Moon, open to the conversation. So we are, of course, always open to the conversation about what we say on the B.O. boys. We welcome it. So thank you for commenting. Now, Clayton, what do you want to say though?
Well, I mean,
in this conversation,
it is, you know, when we get told we're in the bag for something and then somebody comments as somebody who's obviously in the bag for something else,
right?
It is difficult to argue with them or counterpoint them when they go strictly for Marvel, and we're talking about Scorsese because obviously
such a bad time to bring Marvel up as your sort of like, you know, big piece of your big exhibit number one.
Yeah. And yes, B.O. we do talk about B.O., but there's different levels of films and different types of films, and their B.O. needs to be sort of looked at differently. Right. So, you know, and we don't really talk about budget much here. You know, you're fond of saying like the budget is what the budget is. Well, and there's a lot of COVID inflation for a lot of budgets. So that was hard, right? Obviously, $200 million is a lot of money. And again, I agree with what some of these commenters say is that it doesn't matter to Apple because Apple makes $200 million in less than a nanosecond.
Right.
So it doesn't matter to them. But
well, let's pretend Apple is just a movie studio for a second and forget that they have more money than other movie studios because they're selling plat. Let's pretend Apple only exists as a entertainment producer.
I mean, it's the same argument that we had with Beau is Afraid, where people were screaming, why would A24 do this? End of Ari Aster's career, all these different things. And it's like, the end of the day, you got to think of the long game. Do you want to be in the Ari Aster business? Yes. Do you want to be in the Scorsese business? Some people would say no, but
I mean, we'll get into this
people
guy,
would say yes.
Yeah.
Netflix said yes. Apple said yes.
Right.
Someone else will say yes. God, hoping that there's another Scorsese film and this isn't his last.
Right.
So when we look at a $23 million opening for a long, dark, depressing movie that's not a video game IP right now, or something like that, or a Barbie,
right,
or a Nolan movie, okay, that is a good opening.
Well, and here's the thing with Apple and why they spent $200 million. Apple, as a movie studio, is starting from scratch. They are trying to become something that Warner Brothers and Universal and Disney have already been for 50, 60, 70, 80 years. They're getting into the game. They have no catalog. They have no Oscar Best Picture. I guess they had Coda. You know, they're trying
they
to
have
establish themselves.
Something Netflix doesn't have.
So when they spend $200 million on a Scorsese movie, of course they'd love to make that money back at the box office. But part of that money, and the reason they spend that, is to plant their flag as an actual movie studio. So you do a Martin Scorsese movie, and whether you like him or not, he is what he is. He's respected as maybe the best director of his time. You want to get a Scorsese movie in your catalog. So sure, this movie is not going to make 400 million worldwide and break even at the box office.
Mm-hmm.
But that is not the only thing Apple is buying here. They're buying prestige. They're buying credibility. That way, the next time they try and get a Christopher Nolan to come and make a movie for them, they're the studio that made Killers of the Flower Moon. You know, and that means something in this town. So it's more than just, hey, if this movie doesn't make double its budget, then it's a failure.
And
part of this movie
theaters.
is it's a loss leader, to some degree, and that is part of the equation when you're going into spending $200 million on a Scorsese movie for Apple. That's why for Warner Brothers, it's not worth as much, because Warner Brothers has 10 Scorsese movies in their catalog. They made Goodfellas. They are established as a movie studio in a way that Apple isn't. So that's why Scorsese got Netflix to finance a 3.5-hour movie for a crazy budget, Killers of Flower Moon. Will he be able to do this again? Will Amazon finance Scorsese's next 3.5-hour movie? Probably, because at this point, Scorsese's going to get another Best Picture nomination. Mm-hmm. Everyone loved this movie, or not everyone, but it's another critical, huge hit. And he attracts stars. Leo is slated to be in Scorsese's next movie. So I'll stay here and predict, if Scorsese lives to make another movie, he lives another 5 years. God willing, he lives 50 more years. But if he wants to make another movie, there will be a studio that will pay to make a 3-hour plus Scorsese movie in the next 5 to 10 years. Because it's worth it to them, even if the movie doesn't make 2 times its budget at the box office.
And you get Scorsese and you get Leo. Right. So you get Leo with Scorsese, because there's no way Leo isn't going to do the next Scorsese film if it happens. So
do we want to talk about the person that we're talking around? Because listen, our YouTube commenters, we love you. Even if we disagree with you, thanks for watching the show. But do we want to say the name of this podcast that we listened to the last 3 minutes of?
Do we? I don't know.
On the AfterB.O.
You can say it.
Well, you know what? People know what town Hollywood is in.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just say it's the town, this Hollywood.
Yeah.
And we listened to a podcast where the host of the show, who may have been a former guest on the B.O. Boys, probably not a future guest, spent the last 3 minutes of his newest episode trashing Scorsese, trashing the idea that a studio would work with him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the points that we just made in that he just totally disregarding the fact that Apple needed to get on the map as a movie studio, and therefore that's why they did this. And it was a unhinged, nonsensical rant that when we finish listening to this podcast about the town of Hollywood, I can only take away that this host must have some kind of personal grudge where Scorsese didn't give him an autograph or didn't take a picture with his wife or his kid or something like that, because something's going on there. When I heard this rant from someone who supposedly knows what's going on in the town, and it was wild. It was totally wild.
It definitely feels like a longstanding grudge, and unlike us and me, listen, I went off on Taylor Swift a couple episodes back.
Right.
Unhinged rant.
Totally unhinged.
Totally unhinged. Next episode, what did I do? I thought about it, made amends, realized where it was coming from, diagnosed it myself, and spoke on it. And now I'm in a good place, right? I would recommend this person. This person who, is about town.
And there's probably therapists in the town.
I would say diagnose yourself. Or if you need to go to professional, I didn't need to do that.
Right.
Diagnose what the issue is and then make it right. Don't live with that.
Right.
Don't live with that. Because then what that does is that leads to, should I listen to this person about this other thing?
Right.
If I continue to scream about Taylor Swift, they would be like, well, he got scammed, so that's why he's upset. And then it would put everything else into sort of question.
Right.
And now that I'm more even keeled about it, people are like, okay, Clayton came back down to earth. And when he says After Death is going to be the #2 movie in America this weekend because the pre-sales on the website say that's the way it's going to go, they'll say, I believe you.
Right.
I believe you. Right. So, I mean, that would be my recommendation. But hey, who am I?
Who are you?
Who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I?
Yeah. You're just a man about town.
Yep. I'm not the man about town.
No.
But I'm a man about town.
So listen, there's a lot of hot opinions out there about this Killers of Flower Moon opening weekend. Obviously, the legs are the story on this thing. And listen, if this movie bottoms out and ends up making $50 million at the box office domestically when all's said and done, that's a problem. I don't think that's going to happen. I think if Apple just keeps it in the theaters, the word of mouth on this is going to be good and it'll have long legs. Listen, it's not going to make 200 million.
No.
But again, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Leo plus Brad Pitt in a much sunnier, poppier type of movie, that was a hit. And that only ended up at the domestic box office. It did make a lot internationally as well. I think it topped out at like 140.
Yeah.
So that was always kind of the ceiling for what Killers of the Flower Moon could ever possibly do. It's a much darker movie. And the high on this was always going to be, could it get over 100? We'll see if it can. 23 million isn't the greatest start to get there, but the legs will be the story on this. But for those people, whether you're on YouTube or you're living in the town, to just go off without considering all the other reasons Apple would want to make this movie.
Yeah.
And again, not given the excuse that Apple makes phones, so it doesn't matter what they make on the movie. Just if you look at them as a new movie studio trying to establish themselves as credible, they had to make a move like this, get Scorsese in the fold. It helps them in other ways when they're trying to get Nolan to come there someday, trying to get Greta Gerwig to come there someday.
Yeah.
You have this big Best Picture nominated Scorsese movie in your catalog. And that is a business move for them to make. But, not everyone in the town understands all the facets of business, apparently. So,
yeah.
Well,
Pat, and I know we're going a little long, but this seems to be a segment we always do in the AfterB.O, and it's breaking news.
Okay.
Richard Roundtree, star of Shaft, dies, 81. Samuel L. Jackson says, best to ever do it. Coming from a man who played Shaft twice in 2 ill-fated reboots. The sad thing with Shaft is never got that legacy sequel he deserved. Like Roundtree never really got the sort of, scream, or, he didn't get to fight, Mike Myers like Jamie Lee Curtis. He never got to have that Shaft for the new generation film.
Well,
they tried with that Shaft, but it bombed.
Well, so the Samuel L. Jackson Shaft movie that came out in 2000?
Yes.
That was a successful movie. It wasn't a giant hit, but it was a box office hit.
But Richard Roundtree did not play Shaft in it.
No. He didn't. But you're saying Shaft never got a reboot where Richard Roundtree played Shaft.
Pat, are you forgetting the Shaft that had 3 generations of Shaft?
Yes. That came out a few years ago.
And that bombed.
Was Richard Roundtree, though, a character in the 2000 Shaft at all?
He did not play Shaft. He played he was in it in a different capacity.
But then the Sam Jackson Shaft from that movie was in the, was it 2018, 2019 Shaft, where Richard Roundtree's Shaft then also appears alongside Samuel Jackson. Are you sure Richard Roundtree didn't play Shaft in the Samuel Jackson Shaft and they weren't father and son?
I'm looking it up.
Because I don't think Richard Roundtree just was in there playing like a hot dog.
He was a taxi driver.
I think you're thinking of Ghostbusters 2018, Answer the Call. I'm sorry to call that Answer the Call.
Yeah. Okay. John, in the 2019 Shaft, Richard Roundtree plays John Shaft Sr. Samuel Jackson plays John Shaft, and Jesse T. Usher plays J.J. Shaft. So that's the 3-generation one.
Right.
Now, let's look at the 2000 Shaft and see what Richard Roundtree plays. Okay? We only do this on the AfterB.O. Okay. He played, looking down at 2000. 2000 was a long time ago, Pat. 2000 was pre 9/11, if you can believe that.
Wow.
Want to feel old?
Yeah, there was a time before 9/11.
Okay. And of course, the internet is being throttled.
So, yeah, I'm just gonna bet that Richard Roundtree played a Shaft.
He played Uncle John Shaft.
Yeah. So they had the same relationship in the 2000 Shaft as
different.
No, different.
First Shaft reboot, he was an uncle.
Okay.
Second reboot, he is the dad.
He's the dad.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They're not in the same continuity.
Interesting that those movies are not in the same universe. Wow. Listen, I have to plead a little bit of ignorance in terms of Richard Roundtree. I think the only Shaft movie I've ever watched all the way through is the 2000 Samuel Jackson movie. I gotta say, it's a blind spot. I don't think I've watched the original Richard Roundtree Shaft movies.
Okay.
I may have had I'm sure when I was a kid they were on. My dad was watching them, but I don't have a like a college let's all watch this experience with that. Though I mean, obviously Richard Roundtree's a legend, and those Shaft movies are well regarded, or at least the first few. I don't know about like the 5th Shaft movie.
Yeah, that looks like it was his main claim to fame. I mean, he was in Steel. I don't know what capacity he was in that, but it looks like he doesn't have many other. Looks like he was in Theodore Rex in some capacity.
Yeah, we're probably not the right people to eulogize Richard Roundtree.
No, and this is not the end all be all, a eulogy. Just mention a passing.
Yes,
that we like to do on the AfterB.O.
Yeah.
So
pay our respects.
All
and you know what? We should both make it our business to at some point watch those. Or have you watched the original Shaft movie?
Oh no, I have never seen any of the original Shaft movies. I didn't even see the reboots.
Okay,
the 2000 or the 2019.
Oh wow, the 2001. That's shocking to me that you haven't seen that, because that is so in our wheelhouse of going to me. Like, I have a distinct memory of seeing that with friends as this is a big deal movie for us to go see.
Well, you know what?
It was like a June release. It was a big summer movie.
If there's a 24th anniversary screening of it next year, I'm gonna see it.
Yep.
You know I will. I have to.
Well, you know what?
Contractually, I'll have to.
If you're doing the at a theater near me, seeing a movie every day for 366 straight days next year,
Never been done.
There is a good chance that one of the Richard Roundtree Shafts will be at a rep theater in New York City next year. Like, that is a movie that I guarantee is shown a few times a year in New York City.
Yeah. Shaft or Shaft's Big Score.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's throw that on there as a to-do for next year. Is you may very likely catch a Shaft rep screening in theaters next year.
It's highly possible.
Yeah. And there's no better way to pay respects to anyone than to go see their movie in a movie theater. So
absolutely. On the biggest screen possible.
So, I mean, anything else that you want to touch on here in the AfterB.O?
No, I think, we're going a little long, but I do think, Pat, do you have anything to say about not saying anything about After Death and not picking it in your top 5, which I think is a foul. It's just like it's a mistake.
I didn't want to listen. You're the one who discovered the existence of After Death. You told me about it right after I'd given my top 5 list, and I didn't want to go back and change it. I made the list with the information I had at the time.
You're like a shark. You swim forward.
Yeah, it was locked in. I felt like it would be just dirty pool of me to just redo my list after being told something that I missed. So, I mean, listen, the tickets sold are what they are. So if this thing has already sold $10-12 million worth of tickets, it's going to do that opening weekend.
Yeah.
So very, very, this Angel Studios stuff, because it's one thing for a Jim Caviezel action movie to do that kind of business, but this is a documentary, and this thing opening to double digits, it's if it happens, it happens. But
they you're talking about studios like Apple trying to become major forces. If this movie makes any money, if this movie makes I mean, with the pay it forward system, I mean, this thing could make another 180 million, like Sound of Freedom did, and we're gonna have to talk about it for another 3 months.
Well, let's save that then for the next episode.
But it's money for theaters.
Yeah,
it's money for theaters.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about After Death in the results episode.
Yes,
we're gonna have to.
It'll be interesting.
So, but there you go. Good eye, Clayton, on keeping track of what Angel Studios is up to. And I mean, I think that's it for this AfterB.O.
What a feast for our YouTube subscribers.
Yep. So we'll see everyone walking around town. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching this Websclusive AfterB.O.